Welcome to the Beyond the Bucket Show, a podcast centered around optimizing all life's buckets. We all have buckets we are balancing: coaching, entrepreneurial ventures, family, passion projects, and health. Let's all take this journey together and become bucket fillers. And here's your host, Chris McSwain.
All right, folks, welcome back to another great episode. I say they're all great, but this one is particularly special. We have the great coach from St. Francis High School in Mountain View. She's also coached at Los Gatos and played at a high level too. And she was in high school and college. Coach Sami Pompei, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've wanted to be on this for a long time, so I'm glad we finally made it happen.
Yes, it's always the timing that needs to occur for these things to happen. So I'm glad we're doing it now, especially before we start playing you, and then I might not like you as much as I do right now. But yeah,
is mutual.
Well, welcome to the show. If you've listened or watched, you know that the first question is always going to be, give us a fun fact about you that most people might not even know.
Fact. I'm really into kickboxing.
Okay.
My passion right now when I'm not teaching or coaching or being mom. I'm really into kickboxing.
Wow, I definitely didn't know that. Well, how long have you been doing that? When did you start? And
Yeah, good question. I go to Title Gym in Mountain View. I started there in 2017. And then, COVID, there was a little bit of a break there, but recently got back into it after having Eli, and I try to go over to the gym as much as I can.
Wow, that's cool. It's probably like a good stress relief too. Do you work out daily, or what's kind of like your workout regimen?
Yeah, I have to. I have to. I always tease my team. They always want to know if I've gotten my workout in before practice or after, because they know practice will look different depending on on that. But yeah, if I'm not at Title St. Francis, obviously we're blessed with the facilities, and so I take advantage of the gym upstairs for sure.
Yep. Same. I work out every single day. Even if it's like a light day, it's still moving my body or something, because all these wearables now, like I wear the Aura ring, and it tracks all your steps. So if I don't get 12,500, I feel like even on a bad day, I should be able to get that, because on a regular day, I'm at like 18,000 steps. As you know, Valley Christian, the campus, there's nowhere quick to go. So you have to have long walks across campus. So if I want to go to the gym from where our office is at, I mean, it's probably at least a quarter mile. So
I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also obsessed with the whole, the rings. I got to get my rings by the end of the day. So,
Yep.
And I can see my friends on there too. So of course I'm pretty competitive. So
For sure. Just a little bit. Yeah. Well, before we go forward, let's go backwards. Why don't you give everybody a little quick backstory for some context about who you are, where you grew up, and kind of how you got to where you got to.
Sure. Grew up mostly down in San Jose area. Went to St. Francis Cabrini from K through 8th. My family moved back and forth between Northern California and Southern California. I have lots of family down in Southern California as well, but most of my time was up here. Let's see, I went to Pinewood High School, was blessed to play for the legend, Doc Sheppler, the shot doctor, if you will. Had a great experience there. It was the perfect fit for me. Loved the school. The size allowed me to get involved with a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have been able to do at a bigger high school. Played volleyball, softball, ran one cross country meet. And let's see, I was in the play. I was in student leadership. Just loved my experience. We won 4 CCS championships. At that time, there was no open division. So all D5 CCS titles. I think we played Sacred Heart Prep in every championship game. And then we went on to win state my sophomore and junior seasons. After high school, I played club for East Bay Explosion. At the time, there were very limited AAU teams out there, and East Bay Explosion kind of ruled the Bay Area. And so after high school, I went on to play at Sac State. Played 3 years, tore my ACL one of the years, but also had a great experience. I was far enough to be away and to have my own, my own experience, if you will, but close enough to be able to come home and see my family. I'm the oldest of 5, so it was important for me to be close to home because they were getting into high school at the time. So I loved being able to come home on Friday nights to watch my brother play football or to make my sister's basketball games. That was important. So yeah, that's kind of who I am. After college, I got really lucky. If you want me to get into how I was hired at Los Gatos High School.
Yep. When was that, 2013?
Let's see, 2012, 2011, 2011 is when I graduated from college. And so I started that following year. So 2011. And I was really interested, obviously. I was thinking about getting into nursing. At the time, I was a medical scribe. I was working in the emergency department. But I always had this little motivation, you want to coach. I honestly, Chris, I've known, it's a funny story. When I was in 3rd grade, the Final Four was in San Jose, the women's Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a huge Tennessee fan, obsessed, right? And so we were just hoping and praying that they'd make it. They were the number 1 seed, and they ended up losing. They got knocked out by, I think, Duke. Upset them in the Elite 8. So long story short, we went to the Final Four. I was super upset that the Lady Vols weren't in there, but I caught myself, instead of watching the players, I was watching the coaches. And I know it seems crazy, but I think I've known for a long time that I love the game of basketball. I love playing it. I absolutely loved it, but I just love the X's and O's. I love just talking basketball like this and being a part of it. And I love working with kids. So I knew from very early on that I was going to get into coaching. So I got a phone call from Doc, and he said, and I was excited because I thought, okay, he's going to ask me to help out at Pinewood. And I thought that would be a perfect way to kind of, start my career. And he said, hey, are you interested in being a head coach? And I was like, oh, sure. Yeah. Like, where at? What's this about? And he told me that the athletic director from Los Gatos High School had reached out and asked if he knew anyone that might be interested. And long story short, the athletic director there, my good friend to this day, Shelby Edwards, took a risk and hired a 22-year-old who had very little, if at all, any coaching experience, very little experience with dealing with parents and the logistical part of coaching high school as well. But she told me, I want you to do this, and I'm going to help you every step of the way. And I am so forever grateful for her for giving me that chance. And she took me on a tour of campus, and I never thought I would teach, but it wasn't until I saw her interactions with all the high school students on campus that I knew this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach and I'm going to coach. And so I was hired at Los Gatos, was there for 5 years. I was just blessed with some incredible athletes, as I'm sure you could remember. One being my sister, Carly, who now coaches with me, got to coach her for 3 years. And we had a couple of really good runs, made it to the Open, won league, beat Palo Alto. They were our big rivals at the time. Yeah. Scott and I had some big battles. And then after 5 years, blessed with the opportunity and encouraged by some of my close friends and Doc to try to get this St. Francis job that had just opened. And I was blessed with the opportunity, and I've been there since 2017.
Right. And ironically, well, you're the third, not the third oldest, but the third longest tenured coach in the league.
Yeah. And, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, you are. I'm number 2. And awesome. So that makes me feel.
How long have you been there?
This is year 12 there. Yeah.
Year 12. Okay.
Yep. But Yeah, it makes me feel kind of old to be the second longest tenured. I mean, nobody's gonna beat Sue's 32 or 33 years right now, or
No,
maybe
no.
maybe not ever. That might be a record.
Yeah,
And we'll see. She looks like she's just getting started, so we'll see
I
how long
know. I
how
know.
long
I
she wants
know.
to go. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure to get to know you. I think I met you in like 2012 or 2013. Just so people have some context,
Mhm.
you coached Top Flight with us. We had a bunch of really, like, if you look at that one picture, there's like so many great coaches, people that have went on to coach at the Division 1, Division 2 level,
Yep.
multiple high school head coaches.
Yep.
Such a great experience so early on. That 2012, 13, 14.
Was that
Uh,
the whole program picture?
yep. And
Yeah, it is
I take
special.
great pride in that photo. You know, Alex from Bellarmine is the head coach over there. Sarah is there. Papa Joe, obviously,
Mm,
Allie,
mm,
Ryan Cooper.
yep.
You know, you just go down the Giles. You know, you go down the list. There's just so many great people in that. Snellgrove, who's the Vacaville Christian head coach. So many great people up there, and
It's awesome.
I,
It's
I
awesome, and you should be proud of that.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, you know, now your coaching tree is getting larger too, and people that have coached under you are continuing to go on. And then obviously your sisters are helping you too. So, you know, the family environment is what I've always appreciated about you and in your programs. Everybody seems to have their role and play their role pretty well. And I want to get into this before we continue, but you know, your bond with basketball is pretty big when it comes to your family dynamics. I
Mm,
did lose my mom, as you know, last year, but
mm,
you know, you lost your mom kind of early on in your coaching career with a
mhm,
long time battle of ALS, and she was a basketball coach, and she was somebody in the community that so many people loved and
mm.
respected and cared for. Why don't you talk about the relationship with your mom and basketball and kind of all that before we talk about other things, because I think that's very important.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, she was my first coach, and I think she probably, out of all my coaches, she coached me the longest. I think, gosh, first through eighth grade, she was my coach. She was my sister's coaches. She, I think, I really think that my mom, Fawns, I think they really, those two in particular, when you talk Bay Area, AAU, I think those 2 are probably the pioneers, of really getting AAU started in the area. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but my mom helped Sue kinda get the Cagers program started, and, she also ran a club, West Coast Extreme, which, Danny still has a few teams. Yeah, I just when I every time I step on the court, I think about my mom and the influence and the impact that not only she had on me, but to see the impact she had on so many of my friends and my sister's teammates as well. There are so many young women and men who are involved in athletics now because of my mom's influence on them when they were younger. And yeah, I think she just from the get-go, she instilled this passion for, yes, basketball, but more so than that, just like this competitive fire that I think, all my siblings and I also, were blessed with, and this just passion of being the best that we can be. And, um, yeah, I am so fortunate that she got to watch me play my entire basketball career. My youngest siblings played a few years without her, and honestly, I can't imagine playing in a game without her there. She was at every single one of my games. It was also great that she got to experience our ride at Los Gatos, and got to make the games even at the very, very end when, it was tough to get her out of the house, but she was not going to miss any games. So
Right.
very, very cool experience. And when she passed in 2012, it was in March. So it was actually the last season that I coached at Los Gatos. And when the St. Francis job opened, I had a lot of friends and family just say, Sammy, I don't know if a big change like this is right. When you lose someone, they say, don't make any drastic changes, but something, and I think it was her, kind of told me that this would be a really, really good change to make.
For sure. And beautiful sentiments that you said about your mom, and you being the oldest with all that was going on. Did you feel some sort of, I guess pressure is not really the word, but just some sort of duty to make sure that you handled yourself in a certain way, or certain things that needed to be done?
Yeah.
I'm an only child, so when my mom passed, everything kind of fell on me. My family was great with everything that took place, obviously, but you just felt different being the first one or the oldest one. What was that feeling like for you? Because for me, it was just like, no, I'm gonna make sure that my mom's memory, when we do this, we're gonna do it the right way. And so, yeah, what was your thoughts and feelings? Because I can't even imagine being, the new matriarch of the family once she was gone.
Yeah. Sure. So for several years, ALS, she battled for 8 years, which was, it was tough to watch, but it was also beautiful to watch, I think. But we collectively realized that it would be best for my youngest siblings at the time were, in junior high. And it was just better for them to be with me. We were living in Mountain View at the time, and we were kind of forced out of our home. We were renting at the time, and where we moved, we weren't too thrilled with the public school options. And so the opportunity to move in with me, I had a little studio, little tiny, tiny studio in Los Gatos. And so my youngest siblings, Frank and Carly, both moved in with me. And yeah, there were its challenges. There were plenty of challenges, but also so much joy. And I loved the responsibility, and I also learned a lot, and learned to appreciate just what my mom did for all of us. And I think it would have been harder, Chris, if I was alone. I think that having
Mm,
my siblings really, really, really helped me through that. And now my siblings are, not all of them. Well, all of them are grown-ups, but still pretty young. But now I get to watch my siblings, get married and have kids of their own. And so to be able to see my mom through and in all of my siblings today and their little kids, like, it brings me so much joy. So I think, to answer your question, I think the load was lighter for me because
mm,
I had so many people around me that, of course, I felt like I needed to be strong for them, but, it's not who we are as a family. My mom always taught us to just, like, be who we are and to be there for each other. So, I never ever felt like, "Hey, I needed to step up because I was the oldest," because we were just constantly there for each other, and we knew that there were gonna be moments where some of us were gonna be the strong ones, and some moments where we were gonna be, down and needing each other. So I think we've done a really good job of just leaning on each other, and I am forever grateful for my mom making that a priority growing up. We didn't miss each other's games. We didn't go hang out with our friends on the weekends. We made it a priority. I knew my brother's soccer schedule. I knew we didn't miss. And
right.
I don't think that's really the case for a lot of families these days. And I think because of that priority, that's why we have the strength and each other to get through such a tough time.
Wow, beautiful. The thing that I took from it was not being alone. And some people, when those things happen, you can isolate yourself. I know for a little while, I kind of tried to isolate myself and I just said, everybody communicate through my wife. And I just let Maddie communicate because I wasn't really ready to talk. And you know how that goes when people, so I was fine, like, by myself. But when you get around people, you
Yeah.
start to feel the grief that they have for you and the empathy that they have for you for the situation that you are in. And so
Mhm.
that was the biggest thing. I didn't want people to have that sympathy for me because I didn't need their sympathy. I just needed people to be around and not like, just act normal. In those
Yeah.
situations, so many
Yep.
people did
Yep.
not act normal, and that was when it
Mm.
was hard. There was
Yeah.
times conversations with maybe my mom's friends or family members, and we're saying that was like my sister. I was like, well,
Mm.
that's my mom. So
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
going to. And I heard we had somebody come speak at the school during one of our in services, and she's been battling stage 4 cancer, and she was like, "Oh, I can't." She gets this all the time. "Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine." She's like, "Well, I have to imagine." And
Yeah.
those sort of comments you just don't really know. So I've become more cognizant of how I approach people with the grief that you feel for them, and not try to put too much extra on it, because you just definitely feel more of it when other people are making such a, not, I wouldn't
Big
say a
deal.
big deal, but just the feeling that you get, it's just
Right.
one of those things. But the last thing I'll say on that is, I've recently come to this realization that the reason why my mom is no longer here is because she had already passed on all the lessons that she needed to teach me while she was here.
Mm.
And
Mm.
now I can move on and understand that those lessons aren't going anywhere. I didn't need anything else from her. And now it's my job to make sure that any place that I'm at, I'm either teaching these lessons or learning these different life lessons through all experiences. And I don't know about you, but I've made it a point to be wherever I'm at, that is going to be the most important thing. Like, my phone is on airplane and do not disturb, because this is the most important thing. Yes, I have other important things around me, family, which is just right inside, but um, that's not the most important thing right now. This is the most important thing. And that's what I've been trying to just enjoy. And same thing kind of with coaching too. Like, I don't know about you, but some of these losses, they can wear on you. And now that you have Eli, you have your own son, and I want to talk about that. Like, how has that transition been? Because you're one of the more competitive people that I know. But same with me. Uh, but now I just have this whole different perspective having my own child. I don't want to miss anything that they got going, or children. I don't want to miss anything that they going on. To your point about your mom, we don't miss anything. We make
Right.
everything, and we
Right.
build our schedule, and we intertwine our families in with what we have going on. But yeah, tell me about now being a mother, what that looks like being a mother and a coach, because this was your first full year as a mother on the sideline.
Yeah. Wow. Great question. So I think first and foremost, I don't necessarily like this about myself, but it's very true. I hate losing more than I love winning. Losses it's the worst feeling ever. And my husband is not a fan of this because normally we play so darn late, right? Eli's normally sleeping by the time I get home from my games. Um, but when it's been a really, really rough night and I just am having trouble getting over it, I go straight into his room and I pick him up out of his crib and I just hold him.
Mm,
And it reminds me, like, Sammy, this is a game, right? This is a game. And I love how passionate and how competitive I am. But it's also really nice to have this new perspective, like you said, of, hey, let's check ourselves a little bit. What do you have in your hands right now? What are you holding on to? The most important thing of of the world. And it helps me. It helps me remember to kind of snap out of it. And also it reminds me too that those 12 or 13 kids that just went to battle for me also are at home with their parents, right? And going through that same thing. And so um yeah, it's been really, really interesting, Chris, this that making that transition. And I think I'm so grateful because it wouldn't be possible to do this without the support of course, my husband, who is also a coach, who knows, right, what the job entails and how much help that you need to be the best coach that you can be.
Right.
But also having my sisters on staff, there are times where Eli is at practice, Eli is at games, he's at events, and if my sisters weren't there, I don't think I'd be as comfortable as I am, like, looking at them like, "Hey, can you grab Eli for a second?"
Right.
And also grateful to the families, right? And I'm sure you see this too, like, my players adore him.
Yep.
My players' families adore him, and I'll look up in the stands and see him sitting with some of my parents, and it brings me so much joy. And again, like you mentioned, that word perspective comes to mind often. But it is a big challenge in the sense, like, as you know, the next couple of weeks are, I think, the most busy. We've got open house coming up. We've got coaches meetings. We got CPR class. We've got DubCal meeting. We've got all these things coming up. And I often question, like, I hate missing bedtime. I hate missing all of these things. So it is a battle. Sometimes I'm like, oof, is this something that I want to continue doing? But to see the joy that he has, little Eli, when he's in the gym trying to shoot at the big basket with the kids, it reminds me, hey, he's loving this experience as well. And I'm gonna hope that continues for as long as possible.
Definitely. No, I agree as well. I mean, same thing. My kids know who the parents with the snacks are. They'll find them really quickly, and now they're at an age where they feel like they own the gym. They run around and they go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about where they're going, but they're always finding
Right,
finding something, and they know so many people on the campus now, and
right.
they go to the football games and they run around, and it's everybody knows, oh, that's CJ and Maxine, and
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
that's a really cool thing. And just having the community embrace your entire family, and like you said, they love it. They love going to
yeah,
these games and
yeah,
enjoying
yeah.
themselves. So when
It's
they
a
get
family, right? It's
for
a
sure.
family, and I think that you guys have the same thing up at Valley Christian. We're just so blessed to be at St. Francis, and to, like you said, everyone on campus. It's like the most popular kid on campus is Eli, and
Mhm.
it is. I can't imagine anything else. I wouldn't want to coach anywhere else because he's loved and he feels that love. So that's what really makes it possible.
Yep, we even have, like, sometimes our former players, like Olivia, she watches the kids and that sort of stuff, and that's really what it's all about. And they love when Olivia and Mia come in and babysit because they've been around them, they've seen them in
Yeah.
multiple different uh, situations, whether it be team meals or practice or the games, and yeah, so that's
Hmm.
that's that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
what would you tell people about our league that um, people might not really know?
Hmm. Great question.
I don't think of these before. It just comes off the top of my head.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. You're brilliant. I think, kind of cliche, and I think people probably know this, so this is not a great answer, but I like the amount of preparation that is required for every single game. I don't think people realize just how much kind of behind the scenes work we put in, Chris.
Say
And
that
now,
again.
yeah, right, right. So I I feel blessed because that's not my favorite part, but that's one of my favorite parts is sitting and watching film and coming up with strategy and coming up with different ideas and talking with my coaches and coming up with strategies. I having coached at Los Gatos, and at the time when I was at Los Gatos, still to this day, that league is very, very competitive. But the amount of preparation that every night requires is is unbelievable, really. But I do love it. I think, but something that people don't know, you know, I would like to say that us coaches are really supportive of each other. Of course, we have these rivalries, but for me, once NorCal hits, and I know that I'm not going to have to compete against any of you, it becomes like hey, I want my fellow coaches from our league and those players that I prepare for every night. I want them to be successful. And I don't think people know just quite how supportive we are of each other. I love when we get to be together, at our meetings and things like that, and really pick each other's brains and get to know each other and get to know about each other's families and outside interests and things like we're doing right now.
Right.
I think that's really special. I don't think I had that relationship in my last experience. And I think that's pretty cool. And that might be because it's so small, that we have that time to get to know each other. But I think that's pretty unique.
Yeah, I think I forgot what I think I was talking to Chris Jackson, who's now over at Pinewood with Doc on the men's side, on the
From the
boys
boys'
side.
side. Yep.
And I don't know if it's that I've been having a lot of conversations because the season's coming up. I want to get all these podcasts like not out of the way, but just kind of get ahead of it.
Right. Before
But
life gets crazy.
that's what I would have said too, is that I think people wouldn't know that we actually like each other. If you just saw us on the sidelines. And I would say you're more animated than me now these days. I've calmed down quite a bit.
You have, yeah.
But I would say that is the point. Like I can literally call anybody on here if I needed something. I know that they would oblige. So that would be the thing that I would tell everybody. Like in the WCL, all the coaches have each other's phone numbers. We can text each other, and if somebody needed something, we don't have any problem, regardless of if we're trying to beat each other on Friday night, of course. But that just is what it is. So I think we all have a high level of respect, and a lot of us knew each other before. Like even when I first came in, Sue had offered like, oh, if you need anything, let me know. So we went to coffee. I said, give me the lay of everything, what's going on here, and that sort of thing. So people don't know that, and people don't know that we knew each other before you got to St. Francis, and same thing when Wade was here. Wade and I would go to BJ's after every game, win or loss. It didn't matter. We would go to BJ's and we meet right over there because it's kind of in the middle of Presentation and Valley.
That's awesome.
So and when Mike,
I think another great example is Maya from SI. We had some battles this year, and we finally got a win over there, which I had never done before. And
that was your first one. It's hard to win over there.
That's tough, right? And she was not happy.
Wait, that was your first. That was your first win at SI ever? Oh wow!
Correct. Yeah, and she was not happy, right? Of course, right? We're all super competitive. But a couple days later, fast forward, I'm looking at Eli, worried about the way he's crawling around, and I was just a little bit anxious about his walking and things like that. And that's what Maya specializes in. She works with pediatrics, and and so I immediately texted her, and what did she do? She calls me and she talks it over with me, and she puts my mind at ease, and she says, "Hey, next time we play, let me take a look at Eli. Let me confirm what I'm telling you over the phone, but I don't think there's any need for you to worry." And so I think that just says so much, right? Like we go to battle, right? We want to beat each other, but then I don't hesitate to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Maya, I need you. I need you. I'm worried about Eli," and she was there in a second. So I think
Right.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool because back in the day, coaches wouldn't do that. Or maybe I forgot what coach, but yeah, that's the biggest change that I've seen is like the coaches are willing to share. At the end of the day, like if you're willing to put the work in, which all the coaches are, like there's nothing else to hide. Like when we did the coaching clinic and they're like, "Oh, do
Mhm.
you care about?" And I was like, "No, Sammy knows all of any of the stuff, and she's in. If we switch it up, she's gonna go watch watch the games
Yeah.
anyway. It doesn't really
Right.
it doesn't
Right.
really matter, and
Right.
it doesn't matter if she knows it. The players need to know it, or it doesn't matter if I know it.
Right.
We talked about
Right.
some of the sets that some of the people in our league run. Like we have to stop that. And if you
Right.
can't stop it, there's nothing else that you can do. So like,
Right. And
yeah,
Chris, you and I both know that we know what the other coach is going to do. It's a matter of teaching our kids in a way that they also understand what's coming and how to react to it, right? So we know what's coming,
yep.
but can we then teach our kids how to react to that? That's the key, right?
I've been coaching first and second grade flag football for my son,
Oh, awesome.
and I'm literally showing them the plays. This is why we're the 49ers too. That's why I wore my Niner Shanahan hat.
Nice,
And
nice.
and we're running. I'm like, all right, here's the play. Da-da-da. And literally, CJ like fakes it, and he's gonna try to throw the ball. And I'm like, dude, it was a handoff, and that was clearly on here. But it's making me think that my high school team is like very, very coachable, coming from coaching
Yeah.
6, 7, and 8-year-olds. But
Fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, but I taught kindergarten when I
mm,
first started coaching. So I was going from teaching kindergarten during the day to coaching high school at night, and that's also, yeah. I feel you get to the high school kids, and you have less patience with them because it's like, how do you're so much older? How do you not get this?
right.
But yeah, that is great. Is that some next level football that you're coaching?
No, this one's like a little higher level.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's called hard count flag football. It's like
okay.
Friday night lights. It's actually pretty cool. Last week was our first game, and I prepare, and I'm like I got all the plays and all this, and so then
My
this
God,
week
that's awesome.
this week I got wristbands to match the colors of where their
Wow.
plays are. So you're yellow, you're red, you're green, you're blue. You're gonna okay. Where do you go? And they still have questions, and I'm like, dude, where is the yellow one on here? Where's the yellow one? And our
That's
boy
amazing.
our boys coach is coaching the defense, and I'm coaching the offense. So Colin, his son's on the team,
Yeah.
and his son are in the same grade, and so that's pretty cool because we've become
S
very good friends.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I know where to go, like, I'm gonna have to come to you and be like, "Okay, Eli's this age, what was CJ doing? What are the next steps?"
Yep.
Because I'm hoping Eli's into sports like CJ.
We've always played him up. So as soon as he could start playing, like he started playing at 3 with like 5-year-olds. So this
Okay,
is always the
okay.
thing in the house. Threes play with fives play with sevens, sevens play with nines. That was kind
I
of the
love it, and
that
that's
was
why he's
kind
a
of
stud.
that was kind of the whole thing. But we'll see where, he's good at most of the sports now, but you just never know. And
Right.
you don't want to get
Yeah.
burnt out. But I love the fact, I don't
Right.
know, have you watched the starting five yet on Netflix?
No.
So it's a documentary from last year with LeBron,
Oh,
Demonis
right. Yes,
Sabonis,
yes, yes, yes.
Anthony
Okay.
Edwards, Jason Tatum, and who's the other one? Well, there's 5 guys, and then
Right.
so they're like the coolest thing is seeing what they do for their recovery. Like they're all so dialed
Mm,
in with what they eat, what time, what naps are huge for LeBron, what he puts in his body, the Normatec boots, the hyperbaric chambers, all this sort of stuff. Anthony Edwards is
right.
still like eating pizza and stuff. Like I got to change my diet, but he's like 22, so he doesn't really care. But I go in there yesterday morning, and he's got that on. Now there's like some colorful language throughout the whole thing, but I'm just like, all right, dude, you can go ahead and watch this a little bit
That's
because
awesome.
it shows like their mentality. Like Anthony Edwards, he's an effing dog. Like everything
Yeah.
about him screams, like even when he's on the court, everything about it. The way he
Right.
talks, the way he walks, what he does is just that guy. And so
Yeah.
if you want to be that, you kind of have to have that like that different personality, which he has, but I just don't want
Mhm.
him to be a complete a-hole. I want him to be a
Right,
little bit
right,
of an
right.
a-hole.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
right, right.
you
Absolutely.
you used to be a little a-hole, when you
Oh,
were
yeah.
playing and stuff like
Oh,
that.
you gotta have a little bit of that. You absolutely do. I agree 100%. But not too much, right? Like you gotta know when and how and where. No, yeah, I agree. And I just think it's so cool and how like I just stress the importance of these kids playing as many different sports as they can when they're young, right?
Right.
And you and I both know and see how difficult it becomes when they get into high school.
Mhm.
Um, some really, really talented athletes can continue it in high school, but it gets a lot harder. And I think it's so important, like you mentioned, you don't want them to burn out. And I think it's so, so critical that they're trying everything.
Yep. The one advice I would do, don't do 4 sports in the fall. Like, I feel so burnt out
Oh,
already, and we haven't started the season. So, my son is doing
four.
football, basketball, baseball, and soccer all at once. So, every
My
day is
God.
something. And my daughter, she's
Oh,
doing softball and soccer, and that's still quite a lot too. So, I wouldn't
yeah.
do that much. S
Oh my God.
But
That's good.
we
Thank
wanted to
you.
get
I,
out of
I
the
will
way.
not try to do that.
Wanted to get it out of the way before the season starts, but I looked at
Yeah.
Colin and I'm like, I'm already exhausted. What's going on here? Uh,
Oh, coach, come on. You got to be ready.
what advice would you give your younger self when you first started coaching and now, a decade plus in the game? What would you tell yourself?
Yeah. I think, part of you saying I had a little bit of that a-hole in me, which I still do, but I I I've learned a lot when it comes to dealing with officials. Um, I think Papa Q, bless his heart, like he helped me a lot with that. I think one time he pulled me aside. You know how he used to just like hold on to the back of your arm really tight?
Yep.
He did that to me and I was like, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." And he looked at me and he goes, Sammy, you want them to be on your side, right? They're human. What, like, pissing them off and getting on their bad side, like, what is that going to do for you, right? And because let's face it, sometimes there's going to be 50-50 calls, right? And so I don't know why that never clicked before, but him telling me that, it really sunk in, and, I also tried officiating just kind of for fun, and, oh boy, I was awful, and I
Mm,
get I mean, I just like, that is the hardest thing to do, and someone is always upset with you. Now, I'm not saying that I am, like, perfect with the officials now, but I think that I have come a long way in how I interact with and how I deal with. Now, again, not perfect, and I make mistakes. Nowadays, I'm a lot quicker to own up to when I was out of line, and oftentimes I'll reach out and just apologize, and and they know it's in the heat of the moment, and we're so competitive, and but there is no excuse, right, to behave the way that I behave sometimes, or the way that we behave sometimes. But
right.
I think if I could go back in time, I would have dealt with situations like that a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good perspective. We've had a lot of officials on this program, and just having the different talks with them and getting to see the side of the game that they see we need them, and we need good
Right.
officials. And
Yep.
if we keep as a whole, I'm not saying you and I, but as a whole, if we keep treating them poorly, we're not going to have good officials that want to come to the game. And if the parents and
Right.
the fans don't treat them with the level of respect that they deserve, they think that this is just like Twitter or Instagram, that they can say whatever they want to these people,
Right.
and they
Right.
can't, and neither
Yep.
can we, you know.
Right.
And I think I was at another. Oh, I was speaking to the officials like last summer, and I
Hmm.
said everybody's objective should be this: one, the game was called fairly; two, you get to your home safely; and three, we get to our home safely. Everybody
Mm.
gets home safe. Like
Yep.
the game happens. It was recorded fairly, and then all everybody involved in the game gets to their destination safely. And if you can have that, and just like I think if I was teaching my class, just like if we, even if you don't believe in God, if you believed in the tenets of what God stands for, love thy neighbor, treat people the way you want to be treated, be kind to one another, then life would be a lot easier for everybody and more peace. And that's what I think
Amen.
we need to do with the officials as well, just have more peace. And yeah, we all lose it sometimes in the moment, and sometimes the competitive juices get the best of us. But if you can have an honest moment, my bad, I shouldn't have said that, or fall back. Um, I think that's something that all of us need to do, and yeah, I'm with you. Like changing your
Yeah,
behavior
and I think
when it comes to that.
too, when an official comes over and you're having a good conversation, and when some of them look at you and say, "You know what, coach, I might have missed that." It's just like it's this reminder of like they're trying their best, and they'll own up too when maybe they miss something. I think that's pretty powerful when an official feels that way, and shares that. But I think too, back to your question, one thing that my mom did or was able to do during her, not just her coaching career, but her entire life is, everybody always says that when you were around my mom, it was as if you were the most important person to her, right? And I always laugh and like joke with people who say that because it was like, no, I was always the most important, right? So everyone always felt that they had her full attention and that they were the most important thing to her, right? And she did that on another level as a coach. It didn't matter if someone never got off the bench or never came off the court. They both equally felt that they were a part of that family, of that team. And that is something that I'm constantly striving for. I
Ooh,
I, I feel like I've gotten close. Certain seasons, I've completely missed the ball, unfortunately. But I think that just continues to be something that I think about. Like, how can I make every single person in my program, whether you're a manager, a player, a coach, whatever your role is, how can I make you feel a part of what we're trying to do? Um, so I think that is more of a priority now than it was at the beginning of my coaching career for
and,
sure.
and what are you doing to make that a reality?
Yeah.
It's
That's a
yeah,
great question, and that's the battle, right? And I think it really it comes down to your relationships with these players off the court. Um, I think you probably also realize this, just the beauty in being on campus and being available. My players know where my classroom is, and I want them to come visit me. I love, I'm in the middle of an algebra lesson, but one of my players is I'm right by the water, so when they go fill up their water, they always pop in and say hello. It's the best distraction of the day, right? Is
for sure.
and I think the better relationship you have with your players, I think the more you could coach them, if you will. Because the more they know that your coaching isn't being mean, your coaching is because you care and they know that you love them, right? If the better relationship, the tougher I can be. Um, which is kind of a catch-22. If I want to be, I don't want to be best friends because there's a line there, but I want them to know how much I care and how much I love them and their families. And so when they step foot on the court, I'm going to coach them up. I'm going to be tough on them, but that's tough love, right? And so, yeah, that's the goal. That's the ticket, is really working on those relationships, because um, I played best for the coaches that I knew cared about me, and yeah, that's something that I really need to. We all need to do a better job of.
Right. And I think also, to add to your point, the relationship with the parents too is very, very important, because most of the time when they come and they watch the games, you're only usually holding them accountable for something. We don't praise them every single time they do something good. They make a layup, they make a shot. Yeah, we might clap or something like that. But when you'll see this when Eli is growing up, and you see interaction with an adult when he doesn't do what he's supposed to be doing, what type of reaction do you have
You have,
when that
right,
takes place?
right,
Because you're instantly going to go into a mode of protection, because that is
right,
your offspring. And so
right,
I've tried to make sure that once I became a parent, to be more understanding to that, and let hear them out from time to time, and give them opportunities to be able to chat with them, because most of the time they don't hear the compassion and love that we and our staff have for their child. They
right.
only see interactions that seem to be trying to correct the behavior of whatever they're doing or not doing on the court. So that
Sure,
is
sure.
also a big
It's
one.
huge. It's huge. My mom, this is something that I have drastically changed or moved away from, but my mom would always tell me, like, don't even learn your parents' names. Just call them mom and dad. Stay out of that. Don't mess with that. Um, but over time, I've realized just how important it is for me to have their support, especially for the child, right? A player, you can tell when parents disagree with some of our decisions by the way that the player is behaving, even if they're trying not to, right? We can see that. And like you said, I think too, Phil and I have really seen, oh, when Eli starts to play sports, this is something that we're definitely gonna do.
Right.
Or, ooh, we are not gonna do that when Eli gets to that age, or things like that. But it's been really interesting, just learning more about where our parents' perspective is as a
Yep.
parent now.
If I'm not coaching, I sit with the visiting team's parents when I'm
Smart,
watching the games. So like on Sunday, we
smart.
were playing basketball, and I coach the practice, and then I go away, and then I just watch. Uh, and I sat with the visiting parents, because our parents are crazy. And we're the our team is the Warriors, so our parents were wearing all the Warriors gear. Like, we got really lucky this fall with the San
I was
Francisco,
gonna say,
like,
you're the Niners and the
Niners
Warriors.
and the Warriors, which is really cool.
What about
So
the Giants on the baseball team?
their Willow Glen baseball went with like the pink like theme, and
Okay,
like the
okay, okay.
it was like cotton candy is like, yeah, so their uniforms are like cotton candy. The cotton candy
My
crusher.
nephew's name is like the crazy bananas or something, the slugging
Mhm.
bananas, which I thought was
Yep, the
hilarious.
banana slugs, yep. I was gonna ask, on the competitive side, do you still play with your players or no?
Oh man, I wish I could. I have to admit that, uh, gosh, at the beginning of the year we had a big pep rally, and they asked me to play against some of the players. They asked a few faculty to play against the players, and we lost. I was so
You
pissed,
guys
but it was.
lost? Oh my gosh.
We did. It was half court. I feel like we would have pulled it off. It was if it was in transition, if we could transition full court. But my knee in college, I tore my ACL, and I just never quite got back to feeling great. I played a little of the adult league with Sarah and Allie, and those time. Oh my God, we had so much fun, and we just whooped on everybody.
Right.
But yeah, the knee does not like playing. Every once in a while, I'll start shooting around a little bit, and if we have 9, I might think about it, but man, it takes me about 3 weeks to recover.
Mm.
And my players let me know about that. My players give me a hard time. They're like, "Come on, coach, come on." My sisters are still able to run with them a little bit, and my other coaches too. I wish I could play more. I miss it.
I used to play a lot with them, but when I play, I
Mhm.
can't coach. I go in, it's
Yeah.
not it's player mode, it's not coach mode.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
stopped
Yep.
doing that because I can't do both.
Yep.
Or if
Yep.
I do play, there's just no coaching gonna happen that day. But we play the students every year. Well, it's like the classes play. It's like freshmen play the seniors and the sophomores play the juniors. Whoever wins that, then they play us like on
Plays
Friday.
varsity.
It's like a whole week thing. And
Oh, that's
our our
fun.
our staff has been undefeated, so we haven't lost. But some of those games get kind of physical because they bring the bleachers all the way out, so you don't have like the outer third of the court, and which is fine for me because I'm only going 3 point line to 3 point line anyway. Um,
Me too.
but it's fun. And now like now I have almost all former players. So Fallon joined our staff.
Sweet.
Uh, Caitlin
Sweet.
Caitlin Keating joined our staff.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Cool.
and Ashley is still on the staff. And
Oh,
then
that's sweet. You
so
got some ringers.
I have nothing but and Ryan Eshoff, Ryan, my assistant, and
Yep.
then Miles, who coaches JV. They all played at Valley Christian, so I'm the
Oh, that's awesome.
only non-alumni.
Non-alumni. Yeah.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
the team. But I always felt like if we ever had, because we've had like really good coaches that can also play. I was like, we should have a coaches league that we play against each other too. I think
That would
Valley
be
Christian's
fun.
winning that though.
I think
But
you
some of
might be
your
right.
freshman coaches aren't bad though.
No, no, we've got some talent. And now on the boys' side too with Noah and like we
Mm.
we could put together a pretty good
If we
team.
did staff, so if we did staff. Well, Tom is
Yeah.
6'10" on the boys' side,
Ooh, I'm
and
not sure who would guard him.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the dilemma. Like I didn't have to guard anybody because he's 6'10". I just let him go by. He throws it and then goes the other
Just
way.
sent it.
But we all played in a men's league too, and that was pretty fun. So it was like all
Awesome.
BC staff, all of us
Yeah.
former guys that think we could still play, but we had such a good time. That was fun. We did lose
Oh
one.
yeah,
We
those are
did lose
fun.
one game. And then we started pressing and got back in, but we beat them by like 30 in the championship. So it was fun.
Yeah, I bet you were not letting that happen again.
No,
No,
not at all.
not a chance. Not a
We
chance.
started. They only
Oh
had like
man.
one or two ball handlers, so we start double teaming and trapping, and yeah, we're
You knew
like,
what to do.
yep. You heard a gold chant, wearing gold, wearing a 221 in a men's league. They're like, "What are you guys doing?"
We're winning. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Speaking of winning, did you see Sabrina's shot before you logged in?
I came straight from flag football and logged in on this. Try to get
Oh, I
them.
hope I didn't ruin it for you. She hit about she probably 35, 36 footer off the
So,
bounce to win it.
so what's the series now?
So now Liberty's up 2-1.
Oh wow, and they were about to go down to
Yeah,
one. Okay.
they were gonna go. Yep, because the Lynx got one in New York, so they needed that one. This was the first game in
The
Minnesota.
WNBA did not do a good job with the scheduling because a lot of those early games were going against the NFL on Sundays
Yep,
uh,
yep,
in the
agreed.
playoffs. Like that's crazy. They had plenty of opportunity. Play the games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. Get them like I guess today. Well, even Wednesday's a great day to do it because there's no other sports
Right,
other than
right.
baseball playoffs too. But um, yeah, so that was a missed
Yeah, it's gonna
opportunity.
be. I agree. I agree. And this man, this series is unbelievable.
And then the Valkyries are coming.
Oh, so
Are you
excited for
getting season
that.
tickets or?
God, I wish I could. I know a lot of my family are. I'm hoping that I can maybe go to a few games when they can't. But I don't think this is going to be reality. But I want the Liberty, but I'm pushing for them more because I think that if maybe Sabrina wins a championship with New York, that she'll say,
Mm,
"Okay, I'm going to go back home and help
that
get the
That would be
program
cool.
started.
And I think they get the
Yeah,
number.
that
I
would be
think
awesome.
I think they get the number one pick, so I think they're gonna get Paige. Um,
God.
but I think
Can you
a lot
imagine Paige and Sabrina in the backcourt?
a lot of our friends are getting Sarah and Bill and everybody is getting season
Really?
tickets. So I think
They're smart.
I want to get season tickets too. We all went to see Caitlin Clark over the summer play.
Fun.
We all flew to Vegas and we went and watched Caitlin Clark play the Aces.
Oh, was it amazing?
It was great. It was great. Yeah, great atmosphere. Largest women's basketball game in the history of the WNBA. I think maybe even
Wow.
in the entire United States, over 20 something
That's so
thousand.
cool.
And just to see, yeah, that was really cool. Just to see the game of women's basketball where it's been at, and where it's going.
Right.
It's truly amazing to see all these young stars. And that's another thing. Like being a mom, I got to commend you on being a mom and still coaching, because so many moms, don't end up coaching, and the females um, that do coach, like I have a lot of respect. What's the Arizona women's coaches
Oh, Adia
name?
Barnes.
Yep.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, she's breastfeeding in
Yeah.
between breaks at
Yep.
practice, or that
Right.
sort of stuff.
Right.
I think that's commendable. So talk about those struggles and that push pull from wanting to not miss the bedtime and stuff like that. You're
Yeah.
up in San
Yeah.
Francisco on a Friday night and you
Yep.
haven't seen your
Yep.
kid all day because you guys left at 3 o'clock to get up
Yep.
there. What is that
Yep.
like for you? Because I think the feeling is a little bit different for a man.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. There are days, it's tougher on the days where you don't have a great practice or you don't get a win, right? Those are the days that you're really questioning, is this worth it? Is this worth me being away from Eli, right?
Mm.
So those tough days, right? When you come home from a bad practice and you come home and he's already in bed and it's like, God, you know, um, yeah, I often will have that battle. But I think like I had mentioned before, I'm so blessed. My husband, the way we see God is by showing up for each other. That's just kind of been our thing from the time that we met. I go to as many of his meets as I can, and he goes to all of my games. We like we said before with our families, we just don't miss. We're always there. We find a way to show up, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's tough. And so I'm so blessed because Phil is willing to have Eli there most of the time, right? So yes, I'm missing a few things here or there, but for the most part, on any special moment, I can look up to the stands and see that Eli's there with Phil.
Wow. Yeah.
The reality of that's going to get tough, right? As you know, as Eli gets busier with his own sports and his activities, I'm not sure what that's going to look like because I tell Phil all the time, like once he starts playing sports, like I'm not missing anything. And so to see that you can manage it with CJ and Max's schedule, and to see that you're still a part of their sports lives and still coaching, gives me a glimpse of hope that hopefully I can continue to do the same.
We're trying. It'll probably change as they get older. I
Right.
probably think like, when he's in eighth grade, that's when we really have like some decisions to make,
Right.
and then Max will be
Right.
in sixth grade. So that
Hmm.
still have some time until that happens, but it'll be here before you know it. And so
Right.
yeah, so
Amen.
we'll kind of
But coach, like you said, and I think this is a great lesson too, and this is what I appreciate you saying this tonight, is just being in the moment, right?
mm,
Instead of worrying about what Eli's schedule is going to be in a couple years, understanding that, and I'm so hopeful I can see myself coaching at St. Francis till maybe 30, more than Sue Phillips, right? Like
whoa.
I can see myself doing that, but instead of worrying about that next phase in Eli's life or that next phase in my life, it's more like, okay, be in the moment, right? What can you
Yeah.
be doing right now?
Hmm.
And as you know, like if I didn't have the support of Phil and my sisters on the bench, like none of this would be possible.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, like I thought like after year 10, I was gonna just probably hang it up because I was just like, oh, I'm gonna every 10 years I would be doing something different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I started this and then I was doing this for 10 years. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, then it's a net and I don't need to put a time frame on it if I'm still enjoying it and having fun, like you mentioned,
Yep. Yep.
because you could decide like tomorrow, like, I'm good. It doesn't need to have just because it's 10 years or it's 15 years or 20 years or whatever the case may be. Like it doesn't
Right.
need to have, that hard response, like this is when we're going to do this, or people idolize certain things. Oh, at age 24 I need to be this, at age 30 I need to be married with children, at this age
Right.
I need to buy a house, and
Right.
yeah, like we need to be fully present and embrace whatever those moments are going to be, because we don't know what the next moments are going to have or what this
Yeah.
obstacle is going to be in our future. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
Absolutely.
and that, thank you for reminding me, because sometimes you start to think about this sort of thing. Why am I thinking
Right.
about him in eighth grade right now? He's
Right.
not even in
Right.
second grade right now.
Right.
He's
But
in first grade.
that's the preparation part of us coaches,
Yeah.
right? Is we want, we've got this, we know what the goal is ahead and what we need to do to get there.
Yep. I can't believe we're already an hour and 5 minutes in.
Wow.
But just because time is valuable, I'll get you out on these last few. One, if there's somebody that should be on the show, who should it be? And
Mm,
you have to make the connection for us.
okay.
Who's another?
Ooh.
Who's another? Almost everybody in the league has been on. So
Okay. Okay.
Maya said she's too shy to go on.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna work
Uh,
on her for you. She
uh,
would be great.
Will has
So,
been on. Demetrius.
someone who comes to mind is so my cousin Dan Krikorian. He this is his first season at Chapman as the head coach. He's been there for, gosh, I want to say 10 years now. He had been an assistant
Down in Southern
there
California.
down in Southern California. He started a podcast during COVID with one of his buddies, former teammates. That podcast has just gone off.
Oh, really?
And it is called Slappin' Glass.
Oh, he
Yeah,
runs Stopping Glass. Oh, I love
he runs
Stopping Glass.
Slapping Glass. So there you go. So I can help you make that connection if you want his contact information. I think you should have Dan on. I think the two
Definitely.
of you could talk hoops for days.
That's awesome. And we didn't even talk too many hoops today. That's why this is called Beyond the Buckets, because
I love it. I
they
love it.
don't.
I love it.
There's enough basketball talk, I think, out there, but number one, people could see that, hey, these coaches actually like have relationships outside the court.
Yeah.
Another point that you made was how much work that we actually do put in, which we do put in a lot. And so
Yeah.
that and then just the vulnerability about talking about your family life and your mom
Sure.
and everybody like that. So I really appreciate the
Of
concept.
course. Oh, and one more, this would be funny for you, and I don't know if you know this. This is another fun fact.
Yep.
My mom's parents, my grandparents, so Eli's great-grandparents, they live in Southern California, but they are probably my biggest fans, and they often, well, every season, they come up and they come to at least, gosh, 3 or 4 games every year. They are
Wow.
the most knowledgeable basketball. I mean, my grandfather, I could pick his brain all day about hoops. And so he'll come up. They don't know anybody's name, but they know all my players' numbers. And so,
Mm.
he'll randomly, like tonight I got a text from him and said like, "Oh, how's number 11 practicing?" They came to our summer tourney last weekend and he's got all these ideas. So I think that would also be fun to have them on. That's Dan's grandparents as well. So very cool.
Cool. Well, definitely Dan and grandparents. I love them too. So
They would be great.
well, cool. Well, thank you so much. This is going to be the outro, I believe, if I can find it, and then stay on, and then I'll wrap up with you after.
Okay, cool.
Here's the outro, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.